Mornings in San Diego broke with a quiet dread, like the marine layer smothering the sun. At 65, retirement felt less like a reward and more like a daily struggle. My Social Security check barely covered rent and groceries. I'd stand in the supermarket doing painful math over a carton of eggs. The dream of a comfortable retirement had dissolved into anxiety and isolation. My world shrank to a small, overpriced apartment surrounded by strangers. Sirens at night replaced the laughter of old neighbors. Loneliness became my constant companion, my daughter and friends far away. Healthcare was a looming threat. One emergency could wipe out everything. The system promised care but delivered fear. I felt trapped, watching my freedom and joy erode day by day. The idea of leaving didn't strike like lightning. It wasn't a sudden bolt of inspiration or a dramatic epiphany under a stormy sky. It wasn't a singular event that propelled me towards a new horizon. Instead, it crept in quietly, like the morning mist rolling over a still lake. It was a subtle shift, a gentle nudge from the universe, a whisper of elsewhere that grew louder with each passing day. One afternoon, while aimlessly surfing the internet, I stumbled upon a video. It was buried deep within the algorithm, a suggestion I almost scrolled past. It featured a man my age, perhaps a few years older, living simply in the Philippines. He wasn't a travel blogger or an influencer. He was just an ordinary person sharing his life. He spoke of community, a tight-knit group of people who supported each other, shared meals, and celebrated life's simple joys. He talked about living well on little, about finding contentment in experiences rather than possessions, about the freedom that came with a minimalist lifestyle. He described neighbors who cared, who looked out for each other, who offered a helping hand without expecting anything in return. A stark contrast to the anonymity I felt in my own life. That seed, planted by a stranger on the internet, took root in my restless mind. It began to sprout, sending tendrils of curiosity and longing through my thoughts. I researched late at night, fueled by a growing sense of possibility. Hours melted away as I delved deeper into the realities of life in the Philippines. I discovered the incredibly low cost of living, a fraction of what I was accustomed to in America. The consistently warm climate, a welcome escape from the harsh winters I had always dreaded, beckoned me with its promise of sunshine and gentle breezes. And the widespread use of English speakers, a comforting bridge to a new culture, eased my anxieties about communication. My savings, which felt meager and insufficient in America, could stretch for years there, providing a financial cushion and the freedom to pursue passions rather than just pay bills. The thought of such a drastic change was terrifying, a leap into the unknown. But it was also exhilarating, a chance to rewrite my story and create a life filled with purpose and joy. I'd be leaving behind a life of quiet desperation, a monotonous routine that had slowly suffocated my spirit. A life where I felt like a ghost, going through the motions but never truly living. The turning point, the moment when the dream solidified into a plan, was a call with my daughter. Her opinion mattered more than anyone else's. I confessed my plan, laying bare my hopes and fears, expecting her to object, to tell me I was being foolish or irresponsible. Instead, after a long pause, she said, "Dad, I just want you to be happy. If this is what you need to do, then I support you." Her words gave me permission, a release from the guilt and uncertainty that had been holding me back. It was the validation I needed to take the plunge. I decided to sell everything, to shed the weight of possessions that had been anchoring me to a life I no longer wanted. I would trade my shrinking American life, a life defined by work and obligation, for the unknown possibilities that awaited me across the ocean. 2 suitcases, filled with the essentials, and a heart full of hope. A leap across the Pacific. A new chapter was about to begin. Dismantling a life is brutal and clarifying. Selling my car, furniture, and books felt like shedding old skin. Friends looked at me with disbelief. "The Philippines? What will you do?" I didn't know. I just knew I couldn't stay. The flight was a surreal 20-hour passage between worlds. Fear sat heavy in my chest. What if I'd made a mistake? Manila was chaos, heat, noise, unfamiliar language. This wasn't the tranquil paradise from the videos. My plans felt fragile. A long bus ride and a bumpy tricycle trip brought me to a small village by the sea. No traffic lights, no supermarkets, no familiar landmarks, just simple homes, coconut palms, and the unknown. My new home. The first weeks were a blur of culture shock and loneliness. My house was basic. Concrete, tin roof, electricity most of the time. The heat was relentless, the nights filled with unfamiliar sounds. Communication was a struggle. The local dialect dominated. Buying rice became a pantomime. My attempts at the language met with giggles. The internet was unreliable, cutting me off from my old life. Every task, cooking, laundry, was a lesson in humility. I missed home, or at least the idea of it. I wondered if I'd traded one prison for another. Adjustment came in stumbles and small victories. The nightly chorus of geckos became comforting. Power outages turned into opportunities to watch brilliant stars. The village revealed its quiet magic. Trips to the Sorry store became moments of connection. Elena, the owner, learned my preferences. Her children taught me new words. I became Tito Americano, no longer just a stranger. Time here was fluid. Plans were suggestions, not schedules. I learned to let go, living by the sun and tides. Loneliness faded, replaced by peaceful solitude. I read, observed, and became present in village life. I was learning to simply be. The shift from being an outsider, a mere observer, to feeling like a true neighbor wasn't a sudden event. It was a gradual process, a slow unfurling of belonging that began unexpectedly. It started, ironically, with a storm brewing on the horizon, both literally and figuratively. As a typhoon approached, a palpable sense of panic set in, not just for me, but for the entire community. I felt a surge of anxiety, unsure of how to prepare or what to expect. Having never experienced a typhoon before, I was overwhelmed by the impending chaos. Just as my anxiety peaked, my neighbor Ramon and his sons arrived at my doorstep. They came bearing not just tools, but also a sense of calm reassurance. Without a word, they began boarding up my windows with plywood, expertly securing the house against the coming storm. They were staying through the storm, ensuring I wouldn't face it alone. Their actions spoke volumes about their character and the spirit of the community. As the typhoon raged outside, we shared coffee and stories by candlelight. The power was out, but the warmth of human connection filled the void. It was a simple act, but it forged a bond that transcended cultural differences. They expected absolutely nothing in return, just neighbors helping neighbors, a fundamental principle deeply ingrained in their culture. It was a selfless act of kindness that resonated deeply within me. Afterward, feeling indebted, I tried to offer Ramon payment for his help, but he simply laughed it off, waving away my money with a dismissive gesture. That unexpected kindness, that genuine act of neighborly love, opened doors to a world I hadn't known existed. It was the key that unlocked my integration into the community. Soon after, I received an invitation to a village fiesta, a vibrant and colorful celebration that pulsed with life. I was irresistibly pulled into the rhythm of the music, the infectious energy of the drums and guitars. The aroma of delicious food filled the air, and I found myself swept up in the joyous abandon of the dancing. I wasn't just watching from the sidelines anymore. I became an active participant in the celebration, no longer a mere spectator but an integral part of the community. As time passed, friendships deepened, blossoming from casual acquaintances into genuine connections. I began tutoring the local children in English, sharing my knowledge and skills, and in return, they patiently taught me their local language, opening up a new world of communication and understanding. These relationships grew organically, nurtured by daily presence, shared experiences, and a foundation of mutual respect. It was in these everyday interactions that true bonds were forged. I learned that friendship here wasn't necessarily about shared backgrounds or common interests, but rather about sharing life, supporting each other, and celebrating the simple moments together. Slowly, steadily, I was being woven into the vibrant and intricate fabric of the village, becoming an essential thread in its rich tapestry. I was home. The most tangible change was financial freedom. My social security check now covered everything comfortably. Rent was a fraction of what I paid in San Diego. Fresh food was cheap. The stress of money vanished. I could be generous, contribute to village projects, and treat neighbors. My health improved, my sleep deepened. Happiness came from simplicity, not accumulation. My days were full, walks on the beach, coffee with friends, reading in a hammock. The sea and jungle were my daily gifts. In California, ocean views cost millions. Here, they were free. I felt more alive and connected than ever. What I once saw as a lack of privacy, I now saw as community. Life was lived openly. Doors were rarely locked. The village was a social safety net. Everyone looked out for each other. When someone was sick, the whole community helped. Safety came from relationships, not locks or alarms. I became part of this web, helping where I could. My value was in my presence and willingness to participate. I was seen, known, and needed. Purpose returned to my life. I learned that true strength is in leaning on others. My happiness was now intertwined with the communities. Looking back, leaving America wasn't just a simple escape from the familiar. It wasn't about running away from something, but rather running towards something else entirely. Something I couldn't quite articulate at the time. A feeling, a yearning for a different kind of existence. It was, in essence, coming home to myself. A rediscovery of who I truly was, stripped away from the layers of societal expectations and the relentless pursuit of the American dream. It was about finding my way back to my core values and beliefs. I left not out of hate or resentment towards the country I grew up in. There was no animosity, no bitterness fueling my decision. But because, deep down, my soul simply couldn't thrive in that environment. The constant pressure, the relentless competition, the superficiality of it all, it was slowly suffocating me. I needed space to breathe, to grow, to simply be. I found peace, a sense of tranquility that had eluded me for so long. The kind of peace that settles deep within your bones and radiates outwards. Connection, a genuine human connection that transcended superficial interactions. A sense of belonging to a community that embraced me for who I was, flaws and all. And joy, a simple, unadulterated joy that bubbled up from within. The kind of joy that comes from appreciating the small things in life, the beauty of nature, the warmth of human companionship. All of this I found in a small village by the sea, a place where time seemed to slow down, where the rhythm of life was dictated by the tides and the rising and setting of the sun. I learned that true wealth is not measured in dollars and cents, but in the richness of relationships, the depth of connections, and the quality of shared experiences. Not in the accumulation of possessions, the endless pursuit of material things that ultimately leave you feeling empty and unfulfilled. I unlearned the ingrained habit of constantly striving for more, the insatiable desire that never truly satisfies, and instead, found profound contentment in simply having enough. Enough food, enough shelter, enough love, enough connection. My world became geographically smaller, confined to the boundaries of this little village. Yet paradoxically, it became infinitely richer in terms of experiences, relationships, and personal growth. To anyone considering taking a similar leap of faith, venturing into the unknown, be brutally honest with yourself about what you truly seek. What are your deepest desires? What are you hoping to find? And perhaps most importantly, don't romanticize the destination. Don't create a fantasy in your mind that is detached from reality. Be ready to be humbled by the experience, to have your preconceived notions challenged, and to confront your own limitations. Be prepared to learn new ways of doing things, to let go of old habits and beliefs, and to embrace a different culture with an open mind and a willing heart. Don't let fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, write your final chapter before you've even begun. I still miss my daughter terribly. The distance is a constant ache in my heart. And let me be clear, this is not paradise. There are challenges, struggles, and frustrations just like anywhere else. But my life now has a depth and texture, a richness and vibrancy that was missing before. I traded a life of quiet desperation, a slow and subtle erosion of my spirit, for a life filled with vibrant contentment, a deep and abiding sense of peace and purpose. In this small, unassuming village, my soul has finally found fertile ground, and it has flourished in ways I never thought possible.